I would tour with a lot of hip hop clients. I was touring with Kanye West, and we'd play basketball all the time, and they would have to stop the games to laugh at me because I was so bad. And one time we were playing with Kanye and Jay-Z and Common and a couple other people, and I was covering Jay-Z and he was covering me, and he laughed so hard. I'll never forget it, and I just said, I'm going to learn how to play.
Our guest today is a fitness and nutrition specialist and boasts the largest celebrity client roster in the industry. He's worked with the likes of Kanye West, Lady Gaga, Rihanna, Halle Berry, Katy Perry, Megan Fox, Kim Kardashian, Alicia Keys, and many, many more. Harley has starred on Revenge Body with Khloe Kardashian and is a regular contributor on Good Morning America. For a sneak peek into the world of superstardom, please join me in welcoming celebrity trainer, fitness and nutrition specialist, and best-selling author, Harley Pasternak, to the Escape Your Limits podcast. Well, Harley, thank you for inviting us to your, this is your place of work, and it's a beautiful place, so I'd love to work in a place like this. And also welcome to the Escape Your Limits podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So just a question before we start. I've read a lot about you and your philosophies, and I understand sleep's important, but I've heard you've said that you're an ugly sleeper. What does that mean? I've heard, you know, if you weren't married to your wife, then you probably wouldn't have someone who'd want to sleep with you.
So I to sleep at night, first of all, I wear a mouth guard because I grind my teeth at night. I guess because, you know, stress. And then I wear an eye mask because if there's any light in the room, it bothers me. So even though we have blackout curtains, if it's the cable box in front of the TV or just anything. So my wife wakes up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, that light wakes me up, so the eye mask. And then earplugs because my wife may talk in her sleep. And then I have a bad back, so a pillow between my knees. Sometimes I use my kids' sound machine to sleep at night for ambient noise, white noise. Sometimes I'll use CBD to help me sleep at night. So yeah, I have a lot going on,
So how do you manage when you travel? You got all these bits with you and you put them in your suitcase?
I bring everything with me.
Really?
Half my bag is sleep stuff and the other half is t-shirts and socks.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that why you probably choose certain hotels that have got the right pillows and all that kind of stuff in, I guess?
It's funny, that's part of how my Four Seasons hotel partnership came to be, is they have this amazing service where I'll check into a hotel, I'll try the mattress. If it's not firm enough, they'll send me up a firm topper. And if it's too firm, they'll send me up a soft topper. Like they'll custom, and then pillow-wise, I like a firm pillow and I like a soft pillow, so they have all these different pillows. So thank you, Four Seasons.
Very good. Well, Harvey, give us a little bit of background. You've developed a great business over the years, but where did it start? You know, what got you involved in fitness, and how did you sort of get to where you are today?
Growing up in Canada, a hockey player, thinking that like every Canadian boy, just like every Brazilian kid, they're going to play soccer, we're going to play hockey for a living. And in an effort to get closer to that goal, I started working out when I was 11 or 12. And my mother, not wanting me to hurt myself, hired a phys ed teacher from the local high school to do 3 sessions with me, to teach me how to bench press and teach me how to squat and teach me 5 exercises. And so I did those 5 exercises every single day until I got tendonitis everywhere, and started reading Muscle Magazine and Muscle Media 2000 and every muscle magazine, Flex.
Right.
Looking up to those bodybuilders as the ideal. Growing up during the Reagan era, during the Cold War, when every leading male in Hollywood was Schwarzenegger or Stallone or Van Damme, all these very fit muscle guys, and thinking, well, that's the ideal male. That's what I'm going to strive for. And getting more and more into that, eventually I got more into bodybuilding than hockey. I got injured playing hockey and really got into the fitness part of it. And when you're a young guy and your testosterone's super high, your body changes really quickly. And it's amazing, in a period of a month, you can see your body changing. And depending on what I ate and how much I ate and how much I trained, you see it changing. You see other people. commenting on it, and you have this sense of confidence that comes along with it. So I drank the Kool-Aid, bodybuilded through college, and wanted to study the science behind it. So I did degrees in kinesiology, exercise physiology, degree in nutrition, a master's degree in exercise physiology, and I was working on my PhD on exercise physiology and nutrition, got recruited by the military to help run essentially the superhuman lab, this laboratory called the Defense and Civil Institute of Environmental Medicine.
Right.
It was incredible under Dr. Ira Jacobs, who in the world of exercise physiology, he's one of the most respected people ever.
Right.
He coined the term OBLA, onset of blood lactate levels. And so I was lucky enough to have him as my graduate advisor. And the area that I was interested in was how drugs and food affect muscular performance. And
When you say drugs, were that like performance-enhancing drugs, or are they
all
just
kinds of drugs.
Oh, right. Okay.
So working for the military, I wasn't governed by the same laws that the typical person was. So I could look at the impact of certain drugs that are not everyday things. So we looked at a drug called modafinil, which was for narcoleptics. So if you give a soldier this drug, how long could they stay awake for without having any health detriment?
Is that used now as one of these brain drugs? I've heard the name before somewhere.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. Modafinil, it will keep you awake, but it's not a stimulant.
Really?
So if a special forces person has to stay awake for 3 nights waiting for the right opportunity to do whatever they have to do, we could give them modafinil and it would keep them alert. I did research on a drug called acetazolamide, which is for use at high altitude, so you don't get altitude sickness, so you can perform physically at a high level at high altitude without having blood lactate levels causing a problem. Creatine, the early days of creatine research. But my area of specialty was specifically caffeine and ephedrine synergy.
Right.
So back then, those were really popular, the ECA stacks.
And was that really mainly for use in, like, when they're for the soldiers to be able to...
Special forces,
right,
yeah.
Okay.
So our lab came up with the exact amount of caffeine and ephedrine to create the perfect dose that became standard issue for a lot of pilots because it staved off hypothermia if they crashed into the water. So that was really interesting.
Yeah, I bet, yeah.
And as I was doing this, I had a personal training business. So since I was 18, I had this training business that grew and grew and grew. And when I was in graduate school, I had a team of trainers working for me that were also in university or graduate school with me. And then as I was getting my way towards being able to get a PhD, I got a phone call from a producer in Montreal that I had trained before, and we'd started to do a lot of the actors that came to Canada to shoot films. And he said, I'm doing this film in Montreal. We've got Halle Berry, who just won the Oscar a month earlier, Robert Downey Jr., who gets out of jail in 2 weeks, and Penelope Cruz, who was a very big deal at the time. And we want you to come here and train them. There's no money in the budget for it, and you'll have to put yourself up somewhere and get yourself here. And you're going to say no, I'm sure, but I just wanted to ask. I said, I'll be there in 48 hours. So
what did you think when, because I get, from me, those names are like, wow, were you a bit sort of shocked to hear that, or?
Yeah, so I'd been working with a lot of celebrities at that point,
right.
Americans that would come to Canada to shoot films, but it was Halle Berry. It was Halle Berry, and it was Robert Downey Jr. and Penelope. I mean, these were the biggest names in the entertainment industry. And to that point, I'd worked with really talented people like Jim Caviezel, who was Jesus in The Passion. We trained him on some movies, and Steven Dorff and Eliza Dushku, and just some wonderfully talented people. But this was Halle Berry, and this was Robert Downey and Penelope. So I said, okay, great. So it means I'm not going to go for my PhD. I'm going to stop at the master's degree, and thank you very much, Science World. But I'll be back. I'm just going to go for these 3 months to do this film, and then I'll come back and finish. And I still have the letter in my office that I wrote to my client saying, hey, I've got this great thing in Montreal. Don't worry, I'll be back in 12 weeks. So I never came back. was a long time ago. So as I was doing that, my first session with Halle, I was really excited because she was such a big name, and she said before our first workout, look, I'm excited to work with you for the next few months. But I just got to tell you, I've had the same trainer for 12 years in LA, and when we're done, I'm going to go back to him. So I didn't want you to get your hopes up. But I said, okay, no problem. And so after our third workout, she said, will you come back to Los Angeles with me after this movie and get me ready for my next movie, Catwoman? I said, done.
So did she kind of cut her old trainer off then, did she?
I'm sure they were still friends, and I'm sure he was a wonderful guy. But coming from the science background, that was unheard of at the time. Most trainers do not have real certification, and if they do, they don't have a degree in kinesiology, and if they do, they don't have a degree in nutrition, and if they do, they don't have a master's degree in exercise physiology, and they weren't an exercise and nutrition scientist.
Right.
So coming from that background, truly understanding the body a bit more, it wasn't, okay, how much can we do today? It's what's the least we need to do today to get the most results.
Really?
And training for efficiency was something she wasn't used to. So that was an incredible experience. And while we were in Montreal, I started working with LL Cool J and Ray Liotta. And then I got a phone call to start with Mila Jovovich for all of her Resident Evil movies. Oh. And Rachel Weisz for Constantine.
So when, just on those, when a client came to you then, did they, for different movies, did they have specific like looks that they were going for? You know, did some of them want to be more muscular and some of them want to be slimmer, or were you just sort of getting them to look good?
Yeah, everyone has a different goal.
Right.
Some people are trying to bulk up, some people are trying to lean down, people trying to be athletic, to be sinewy and gaunt.
Right.
So that definitely dictates what we do and how we do it. But those were really great opportunities. And after Montreal, I went to Los Angeles with Halle, started working with Alicia Keys, started working with just a really great collection of clients. And Halle called me one day. She says, Harley, I'm at lunch with Oprah, and she wants to talk to you. Okay? And Oprah was the queen of the universe. She still is, but really, right? Did you have her in London? Was she on TV?
Yes, yeah. She did, yeah.
So she said, Harley, Halle looks great. You need to write a book about what you're doing with her, because this is amazing. How many hours a day are you working out with her? I said, it's 25 minutes a day. And she said, well, are you starving this woman? She looks so lean. I said, no, we're eating 5 times a day. And Halle has diabetes, and
right.
I grew up, both my brothers have diabetes, so I really understood to make sure we were being healthy and safe. And she said, what's the program called? And at the time, coming from the research background, I wrote the program when I was in graduate school, and it was called Multiple Variation Training, and it was based on Hans Selye's general adaptation syndrome and blah, 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 and all these other scientific baloney things. She said, that's a horrible name. You need to come up with something else. So I got off the phone. I thought, okay, we work out 5 days a week on a film set, and each workout's made up of 5 5-minute phases, 5 days a week, 5 5-minute phases. She eats 3 meals and 2 snacks a day, so 5 times a day, blah, blah, blah. Oh, 5 Factor Fitness. So that was the first book I wrote. That book was a bestseller. And then I wrote a book called 5 Factor Diet, and so kept writing, so 7 books now.
7?
7 books in 14 languages and I think 32 countries. So that's how I got into it.
Right.
Yeah.
And with going back to Halle Berry then, obviously you made quite a mark on her. What was it that you think you did different from other people that she'd worked with? Because I guess she's had probably, or been able to get some of the best people in the world.
Oh, for sure.
You obviously sort of did something different. So what was that? And what could other people learn from your approach at the time, do you think?
I think most trainers and most fitness people focus on the workout. I'm going to give this person a great workout. I focus on the program. So what are we going to do today, and how does that fit into tomorrow and the next day and the next day and next week and next month? And how do we, for the body to keep changing, the program has to keep changing. And how can you keep changing a program without making the workouts longer or just going forever heavier and heavier? And how do you have enough variety to keep the body shocked and to keep the mind engaged? And how do you do all this in an efficient way, in an efficient space, with an efficient amount of equipment, knowing that if you injure this person, it could cost millions of dollars of lost film time. So you can't be doing sprints and sport-specific stuff and anything where they might get hurt. Can't be doing heavy squats. And so with Halle, it was really about being efficient and knowing that there's 168 hours in the week. And if you work out 5 times a week for 25 minutes, there's still another 164 hours of the week that we need to think about. And what is she doing during that time? So I think approaching it in a really methodical way was new to her, and only 25 minutes a day she loved. So yeah.
Right. And is your formula, is it similar to what it was when you started now? Do you still sort of work with the same formula but just adjust it, or is everybody slightly different, or do you still use those key principles?
The key principles, yeah. The workouts aren't always 25 minutes. That was based on a film set for her and her goals at the time. Some of the workouts are longer but less frequent. Some of them are shorter. So there's some people I'll write programs for that work out 10 minutes, 7 days a week. 10 to 15 minutes, 7 days a week. So if you and I walk lunge the block right now, one set, and it took us 15 minutes, our legs would be trembling for the next 3 days. So it's just being efficient and being smart about it.
Yeah. Do you think that those, that's something that can apply to everybody? Then it sounds like it's a simple, like you say, 5 simple key principles, which we'll go on to in a moment. But is that something that anybody could do? Do you think? Which is why it works.
Absolutely, anybody can do it.
Right.
I think maybe 2-3 years ago, I wrote a book called 5 Pounds, and it was this idea that whatever you do that can help you lose 5 pounds, it's those same habits that'll help you lose the next 5 and the next 5 and the next 5. And if you have 100 to lose, just keep doing those same things. And I got a few of my grad students to collect scientific research published over the last 40 years on things that have been shown to increase your metabolism, lose weight. And they came up with almost 2,000 things. Eating spicy foods, putting ice in your beverages, taking the stairs. So we distilled those 2,000 things to 5 habits. So what are the 5 habits that you need to do every day? You might already be doing 1 or 2 or 3. And it's those that 1 or 2 or 3 you're not doing that's really going to help you. And before you go to bed every night, this sort of checklist, am I doing these things? Did I hit my step goal today? At least 12,000 steps. Did I sleep at least 7 hours of quality sleep tonight? Did I unplug from technology at least 1 hour today? Did I eat protein and fiber 5 times today? And did I lift something heavy or push something or pull something for at least 5 minutes today? Yeah.
And that's essentially the key formula.
That's it.
And then I guess you just adjust that depending on the person's goals. Yep. Why do you think, like if you think about the fitness industry for a moment, there's more and more people are out of shape, and it seems to be increasing. Although there's more and more gyms and trainers around, it doesn't seem to be fixing anything. What do you think that the fitness space, the fitness world or industry, what do you think they're not doing right to be able to sort of make improvements in that area?
You have to tell an interesting story. And balance, moderation, and sustainability is not interesting. And you can only tell that story once. So we need to keep coming up with a new story to engage people. So whether it be eat like a caveman or the fasting or whatever new thing. I've been in the business long enough to see, I've seen everything from Zone, Pritikin, Atkin, Protein Power, South Beach, the cabbage diet, the lemon drop diet, the chocolate chip cookie diet. And the truth is all of these work. Slim Fast, Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, every single one of them works for a period of time and for some people. And then it doesn't. because it's not sustainable, or it's not enjoyable, or it's not easy to stick to, or it's antisocial, or it makes you sick. But all of them will help you lose weight for a period of time. And the question is, what can you do today that you can do for the rest of your life? Yeah, not always, and sometimes you stray, and that's fine. But you're never on a diet. You just have certain principles that govern the way you eat. And there's flexibility built into your lifestyle. But that's not sexy. That's not cool.
No.
How do you tell that story? That's not interesting, right? I talk about the walking a lot. You just go for a walk. Hit your 12,000 steps a day. Is that as interesting as pushing a sled and using battle ropes? And no, it's not interesting going to a spin class with certain music. And at the end of the day, a spin class is sitting on a stationary bike in a hot room with loud music. It's more of a social environment than it is a logical weight loss method.
Right.
But it's sexier and cooler, and walking's not. So I think that's the problem, is we're constantly looking for the magic bullet. We're looking for the interesting new story. What's the new thing? There is no new thing. Walk, eat a balanced diet, don't have too much sugar, go to bed a little earlier, and that's it.
Yeah. So we all know that, and I guess if you could ask most people, and you could probably pull those key things out of them. Do you think then a big part of it is to be able to, what maybe you do differently is to kind of engage them in their mind? Do you think that plays a key part in not just sort of getting initial results,
Yes.
but sticking to it?
Educating them. So I have a show called Revenge Body. I'm on Khloe Kardashian's Revenge Body on E! And Khloe takes these women who are trying to get revenge on someone who's wronged them, and by having them take control of their life again to lose weight. And season 1, I think it was 5 of us, she sends us these different women to help us, or men, to lose weight. And the other trainers in the show are incredibly talented, incredibly motivational, they're inspirational, they're great at what they do. Their approach is really about the workout. And they have these people spend an hour, 2, 3 hours a day working out every day over this journey. My approach is very different than the rest of them on the show. I don't even allow mine in the gym until the end.
Really?
And I say, here's the habits you need to do. I need you to hit your step goal every night, your sleep goal, or your step goal every day, your sleep goal every night, your food, and unplug. Let's not worry about the working out for now. And it's really tough having them buy into it. But they have no choice. The show gave them me, and they're screwed. They're like, oh, I want to work out. Where's the free training? I said, just trust me. Season 1 was tough because I had to convince these 3 women, just have a little faith in me. And I showed them the pictures of the celebrities in here, and they're like, oh, fine, I'll try it. Try it for 1 week. So I tried for 1 week. The first woman came back. I lost 10 pounds this week. I didn't even work out. I'm like, you ate properly, you walked, you slept, and you had a little less stress. I'm in. So when those 3 women had incredible results, actually the women that I worked with in the first month lost more than any of the other contestants on the show, and none of them actually worked out yet. What's exciting about this is when the show's done and the cameras go away and I'm not there, they can continue to do that. How do you continue to do what is so heavily dependent on someone with a state-of-the-art facility screaming, yelling at you, using ropes and tools and machines? And not everyone has that, but everyone can walk and everyone can eat well and everyone can go to bed a few minutes earlier.
Right.
So that's the exciting part.
Right. And so what's your view on because we've just walked around your facility and it's fantastic. You've got state-of-the-art equipment, and so you have all those tools. So what are you saying about that? Are you saying that get the basics and then add that on top? And what part does the workout play in your philosophy?
So the people I work with are almost exclusively entertainers. And them coming here is about really getting them ready for their next thing. Maybe it's putting on muscle, maybe it's transforming them in some way. It's not just pure weight loss. You get lean in life and you get strong in the gym. This is the strong part. This is the sculpting, toning, tightening part. This is not for weight loss. The weight loss is what they do outside of here. And that's the difference. Most people need to lose weight. And if you triage your priorities, for most people, it's I just need to lose fat first. Then if I want to polish, the people who come here are beautiful, fit people. How do I make them fitter and more strong and more appropriate for their next role? I don't get really any obese people coming here. I work with a lot of them around the world, but the people who come here, it's like, how do I get them from good to great or from great to incredible?
Right. And bringing that down to the regular person then, is that the same philosophy, but probably so focus on those 5 things, but you're going to the gym to sort of finish off that physique. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So is that what do you use in your life? Because you're in good shape.
Ish. Yeah, so I work out with one of my clients, Brad Falchuk. He's Gwyneth Paltrow's husband. He's incredibly talented, successful TV creator, writer, director. He was a trainer before he was successful in the entertainment industry. So he has that background and he understands, and he's just the perfect training partner. And we work out 3 days a week together for about 45 minutes. That's it. As someone who used to work out 6 days a week for an hour and a half, it's really a transformation. And you and I are a similar age. You put on a certain muscle mass, and it's really about not putting on more muscle mass, but preserving the muscle mass while reducing the aches and pains and being more functional. So him and I are also the same age and same stage in life, and we really enjoy it. And that's what I do in the gym. But I hit 14,000 steps minimum every single day of my life without stepping on a piece of cardio. I've designed my whole life to promote walking.
Right.
So I live near work, and when I have phone calls, I walk around the block. If I want to watch the basketball game, I'll put the treadmill on at 2 miles an hour. I'll wear jeans, and I'm not sweating, but I'm just moving my body, and that's what I do from a workout perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you think then, for I suppose looking at getting more people to either get in shape or stay in shape, then from what I'm hearing, it's very much about the stuff you do outside the gym doesn't have to be that difficult, and everybody can do it and probably could stick to it, and then just a bit 3 or 4 times a week going into the gym, doing some kind of strength training.
And you don't even have to go into the gym, because so many of these moves, you don't need a gym to walk lunge, and you don't need so this Fitbit, this is for me, this is the key to quantify and qualify how much and how well I'm moving and sleeping outside of the gym.
Right.
And by gym, I just mean resistance exercise.
Yeah. And do you think that's then part of the issue that most people have then, is that they just see it as very complicated? Because I as we all know, working out is not easy. And if you've not been brought up for it, it's painful, and it's like, I don't want to do that. So do you think then that the ideal thing is just to kind of simplify it, like you say, so anybody can do it, and they should be able to get those results that a lot of the people you're working with get?
Absolutely. And I think people use the term working out inaccurately, because is a spin class working out? Is powerlifting working out? So rather than talk about working out, we talk about resistance training and movement and chronic activity, steps. And when you break it down that way, it's like everyone can do steps. Everyone's doing steps, just do more. Make your life a little less efficient. Park your car a little further away in the parking lot. Get off the tube. I said tube for you. One stop early. So that everyone can do. The resistance part is what scares people and can be intimidating if you haven't been doing it your whole life. So rather than doing workouts, do one exercise. Each day of the week, pick one exercise, a different body part each day, and do that for 5 to 10 minutes. Do 10 push-ups 3 times. Done. The next day, do reverse lunges, 10 reps of each, 3 sets, done. The next day, do, and then build on that. But I think if you lower the bar of entry, more people will do it, and they'll be more consistent.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And is it, I'm guessing there is, but is there research that you've got, either yourself or you've seen, that shows that actually does work? Because I suppose listening to it, it's like, that's great, but it just sounds too easy. And
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the injury risk is higher the more volume of training you're doing, both chronically and acutely. The complexity of exercise, also resistance, will also dictate injury. People aren't getting hurt walking. That's the chronic part. And I think people push too hard, too fast, and that's also leads to injury. So I'm saying, you don't need to. This is a long life. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And unfortunately, the sprint is sexier, so more people do that.
What's your views on the gym business, the traditional gyms? I know I've listened to you before. You reference the guys at Lifetime. I'm sure you got a relationship with those. Sorry, not Lifetime. What's the big group in Canada?
Good Life. Yeah.
So without damaging any relationships, but what's your views on traditional gyms in general?
I think they serve a purpose today that's different than what they were when I started going to a gym. I think with the popularity of cell phones, social media, the internet, people are lonelier than they've ever been. And people are more secular than they've ever been. So there was a time when there was more community and human interaction. If I want to order in food, or if I want something from the pharmacy, I go on my phone, click, and they'll bring me, I was gonna say shampoo, but I don't need shampoo. They'll bring it to me. There was a time where I'd go walk there, get it, interact with the people in the store, the person behind the cash register, and then walk home, maybe see someone on the way back. You don't do that anymore. So the health club today, the spin studio, the yoga studio, the boot camp, it's our church. It's today's community. And that, I think, is an important function of Today Health Club in a different way. So you'll see a lot of people go to see people, to see the people they always see, to talk to people, to be social, to take selfies and post them. But I think it serves an important purpose in that way. Studies also show that people are more successful in a fitness program when they have someone to do it with. So if they have a workout partner, or they're part of a class or part of this community there, then that can be helpful and supportive to them.
Right.
So if they go out of town, they go on vacation for a week, and they come back to the gym and someone walks up and says, man, I haven't seen you. Where have you been? That's a good feeling for them. Like, oh, I'm part of something. Someone cares about me. So that's my initial thoughts on a health club today.
Yeah. I guess as a trainer, particularly nowadays compared to when you started, it's very much social media plays a big part, and your whole personal marketing. And as you said, what's the latest and greatest thing? How do you as a trainer stay relevant in a what could be a sort of fairly faddish type of industry?
Well, one thing I try to do to stay up on my game is to not look at any social media influencers. They're generally not people who are providing quality information. They're providing cool photos, cool videos. There's some people I really respect. Judy Seto, a physical therapist, just a brilliant, and they're a friend of mine, Tim DeFrancesco, who's the strength coach for the Lakers forever, who's in Boston. I really interact a lot with people in the sports medicine side, and then I kind of take that and I say, how do I take those principles and these cool moves and tweak them and modify them to make them more for physique sculpting, while at the same time helping function. I'll keep up on research, so I still read most of the peer-reviewed published journals that comes out. But at the end of the day, the human body is not really changing. And a lot of the most effective things are the time-honored things that people have been doing forever. And maybe we just modify them a little bit based on today's knowledge. Maybe you don't do a barbell shoulder press with the bar behind your neck, because now we know that that's not great for you. But we know it's an effective exercise for your shoulders, so do it in front of your neck. Maybe, there was a time when people were doing such heavy barbell back squats. Maybe we do a kettlebell squat instead, because the resistance is not sitting on your spine. But the squats and presses are people doing forever. And usually these are still the most effective things.
Right. I guess when you're writing books, you've also got to stay fairly relevant. The comment about Oprah in terms of, it's not a sexy name. Do you, in some ways, when you're coming out with your next books, do you have to think about how to take, I guess, a boring story and sort of wrap it in something which is going to sell, get a New York bestseller, for example?
You can go to the grocery store and buy an apple, or you can see that apple wrapped up in a beautiful box and it says weight loss sphere, 4 grams of quality fiber and vitamin C, but it's not called an apple, and you'll pay 4 times as much for that. So how you package things and what you call them really dictates the popularity of them. The book I had the most enjoyment writing, and what I think was the best book I ever wrote, was my 4th book. It was called The World Diet, and it was the poorest seller of all my books because it didn't talk about how much weight you could lose and how quickly. It was, I traveled to the 10 healthiest countries in the world, and this is what they eat, and this is how they cook their food, and this is why they're so healthy. But that's not sexy. That's informative, it's fascinating, it's interesting, but people want, how do I lose 10 pounds this week? And if you don't put that in the title, or you don't put that on the back page, people won't buy it.
How does that make you feel then? Is it a tough decision to say, well, do I sort of create for the market, or do I do what I think they need to hear? How do you
got to meet them in the middle. Because for a long time, when I started my business in Canada, I said all my trainers have to have, for a certification, American College of Sports Medicine, which is the hardest one to get, and a university degree in human kinetics or exercise physiology, and a graduate degree in exercise physiology. So I was like such a purist. Pete, I need the best. If you're not, dedicating your life to knowledge and credentials and information, and I had a team of really smart, boring people that weren't that motivational, inspirational, and then I realized, okay, maybe that's an extreme, but maybe that's not what people want. That's what I think that people should use, that the most educated people in the world, but maybe that's not what they want. Okay, let me see if I can find someone who has an undergraduate degree in exercise science, but is interactive and personal and dynamic and has their own way to connect with people, and maybe I'll move closer to that way. I live in Los Angeles, even that doesn't exist. I mean, everyone's an actor here who also is a trainer, and luckily I've had a few people I work with here on my team for years who are amazing and passionate and fantastic, but it's hard to find in Los Angeles. We have more trainers here than any city in the world, but really we have less trainers than any city in the world.
Yeah. So for a trainer sort of coming into the industry, or someone who's looking to build a team of people, then would you say, based on the kind of book as a metaphor, you've got to be looking for people that have got a certain degree in terms of their science background, but you need to pair that with being able to sort of be motivational, inspirational, engage people. With that, if you were sort of hiring a bunch of people, is that what you would look for then?
Yeah, I think if someone's passionate, I've also learned that if someone's passionate, walks the walk, talks the talk, and dedicated, I can teach them all this stuff, and I can send them, someone who worked for me had all those things, and was missing some of the fundamental knowledge, and I sent them to UCLA, and they went and did their degree at night. But then on the other hand, if someone's boring or not nice or difficult and has all the degrees in the world, they're not going to work. So somewhere in the middle, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of trainers come into the industry wanting to be like you, wanting to train celebrities. What's your advice about how to go about that journey?
So there was a guy who wrote a book. I think he won the Nobel Prize. Maybe he didn't, but I think he did. His name was Viktor Frankl.
Right.
And he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah, great book.
It's my favorite book. You know the book. And there's a line in the introduction, not even in the book, in the introduction, and he says, you cannot pursue success because success, just like happiness, can only ensue. Right. And it happens as a natural byproduct of dedicating yourself to the process, not to the end goal. So all these trainers coming up now who say, I want to train celebrities, should be saying instead, I want to know as much as I can about anatomy and biomechanics and human physiology And I want to know as much as I can. I want to learn and watch and intern. And so when people want to lose weight and they come to me like, I want to lose 30 pounds, I'll say, no, you want to hit 12,000 steps every day. That you have direct control. You don't have direct control over training celebrities. You have direct control over how many hours you spend a day studying. And I always tell, look at your phone, see how many hours a day you're on social media, because it tells you.
Yeah.
Reduce that by 90%, and with that 90% you've reduced it by, spend that time reading a book. Spend that time working on a certification, going to a workshop, interning under someone, spending time at a physical therapy clinic, learning what they're doing, spending some time at a sports medicine performance place and learn what they're doing, and learn and become the best that you can be. Don't focus your time to create the best photo and selfie, and it's terrible. Instagram is entertainment. It's entertainment. That's all. Those trainers are fitness models. And Nike's gonna hate me for saying this, but I've met most of their Nike master trainers. Most of them don't know very much about fitness. And they've admitted to me, they don't. They're fitness models. They're not knowledgeable fitness people. Sorry, Nike, it's true.
So how do you then get with nowadays, I guess, to market yourself, and you're obviously in a different stage of your career, but how do they get themselves out without using social media? Do you think that's still got a place in terms of sort of building your own brand and providing information, or what?
Start off with the room you're in. Look around the room. Do you know more about fitness than anybody else in this room? If you can say yes, okay, then how about the floor of this building? Do I know more about fitness than everyone else on the floor of this building? And if you don't, spend more time getting that. And if you do, okay, the building I'm in, do I know more? Rather than the world, start off with the room you're in, because quite often you don't even know the most in the room. Work on that. You know, you should be able to walk into a room and say, with confidence in your head, don't say it out loud, I know more than anybody else here about exercise. I know more hamstring exercises than anyone here. I know how to do them. I know more variations. I know all the permutations of training. I know that I can use cadence and volume and implements and angles and sets and reps and all those variables to change. So you know all those things. But if you aren't the smartest person in the room, you're not going to be the best trainer in the world. Right. Be the best in the room, and then the floor, and then the building, and then the block, and then your city, and then go from there.
Right. And when I guess from the, looking at you, you've kind of got this total contrast where you've got that science, the degrees, a lot more than a lot of traditional trainers, but then your philosophy is super simple. Like I suppose if you're sort of sitting in the middle, it's like, well, anyone could have come up with that. How do you what's your view on that contrast? Is it that you've got to know all of this to be able to simplify the message?
I remember going to a scientific conference years ago when I was in grad school with my graduate supervisor, and we went to hear some talks on recent research that was coming out, and I remember not understanding anything they were saying and looking around the room, and no one understood what they were saying either. And these were PhDs listening to PhDs and saying, what's the point of having all this knowledge if you can't share it in a way that people understand? And I think the better you understand a concept, the simpler you can explain the concept. And it led me to believe that the people that were teaching that lecture didn't really understand fully what they were teaching. Either it was new information that they fully didn't grasp, or they were trying to impress the people in the room. But I think the better you understand something, the clearer and simpler you can explain it to people, and more people will listen and more people will follow.
Right, yeah.
Bullshit baffles brains. That's BBB. I mean, I can say, we use proprioceptor neuromuscular facilitation when we do stretch work. Or you can say, we do this thing where I push, you pull, and relax. You get that.
Yeah. And I guess the goal ultimately is just to get people to take some sort of action, isn't it, I suppose?
Absolutely. But you cannot, so a friend of mine starting this business, he's really talented, and he does prehab. He does prehab. So he works with people before they get injured. This functional stuff, he's very smart. And he'll work with people and he'll say, now we're going to move the sartorius from the sagittal plane, and then we're going to the coronal plane. I was like, you got to stop talking to people like that. Just say we're going to move sideways. Then we're going to move forward and back. People aren't more impressed. They're just confused when you use those words.
Yeah, it's very, I guess sometimes, and sometimes people use it, as you say, to probably make themselves seem clever in what they are when they probably don't fully understand what it means.
No.
Or the goal. Yeah. So when we came in, you mentioned about being a trainer and that this model isn't, wouldn't work if you was just a trainer, and I get that. What have you done? You're obviously not just a trainer, and when I say just, I don't mean that in a negative way, but how have you, as an entrepreneur, how have you evolved from training clients where I guess there's a certain limitation to the income you can make because there's just one of you, and as you said, you just train one person at a time. How have you been able to kind of build that into a business that's not just reliant on the hours you do?
When I came back to Toronto the first time after I'd moved to Los Angeles, I went to speak at CanFit Pro, the big trade show in Canada, convention. And my friend Patch, Dave Patch 11, he owns Good Life. He's the largest health club owner in the world. And Patch and I went for lunch, and he's like, what's it like working with these people? And da-da-da-da-da. And I was telling him, and then we were talking about, well, how do you monetize that? How sustainable is this? You're not going to be the hot trainer forever, and there's another young guy who's going to come up, and he'll be that person. And he would, this, and everyone else in business knows the saying. I didn't hear it before him, and he said, cater to the masses, dine with the classes. Cater to the classes, dine with the masses. He said you have to find a way to be able to cater to the masses if you really want to learn how to monetize. And so that's when I said, oh, okay, well, the book is a good start. So the book was one thing. And then finding out that you really don't make money writing books, even if it's a New York Times bestseller, really? You don't. I've got a bunch of New York Times bestsellers. They're not profitable, but they're great branding tools and they're a great source of legitimacy, which then, I started a licensing business. So I had products on HSN and QVC. I'm still the only trainer to have their own running shoe. Kitchen appliances. I have a blender. I have Xbox games, Nintendo games, all kinds of products. Understanding that I can help people become fitter and healthier a lot more by finding ways to work with the masses. TV shows, I've had a bunch of TV shows where I'm able to educate people and communicate with people on a mass level. So, what we're doing here today, I think, is amazing because maybe this helps some young fitness professionals out there in a big way, more than if I was just talking to one of them right now. So that was a really important thing, understanding that you to be one person, you're limited by just one person, by your own time. There's 24 hours in the day. So that was a helpful lesson that Patch gave me.
Yeah. And so for people coming into this business, I guess what's your advice? Is it a good business to get, if they're looking to get into it from a financial perspective, is it a good business to get in? And then what are some of the things that they could probably start thinking about to grow their businesses beyond the sort of one-on-one client?
Be the master of something rather than the jack of all trades. You can't be everything to all people. I don't know much about injuries. If you hurt yourself, I'll send you to someone who's excellent at injury rehab. I'll send you to someone else who's excellent at prehab. If you're an athlete, I'll send you, my friend Gunnar is great with athletes. I'll send them to Gunnar. I don't do that. I know how, but that's not my specialty, and there's other people that are better at it. So if you're getting into fitness, first of all, you need certain fundamentals no matter what you want to do. But then when you find a part of fitness that you're passionate about, go all out at that. Be that guy, be that thing. There's a guy in Orange County or San Diego, Brett, who's the glute guy.
Yeah.
And that's his thing. And I thought that's brilliant. Like, that's his thing. And if an athlete comes to him and says, I want to be a faster sprinter, he's like, no, I'm the glute guy. Go to see someone else. So find your thing. Someone who's there's core specialists I know. I met this person who's like a real subspecialist. They specialize in diastasis. So, women when they give birth, often their linea alba, the line down the center of their abs, splits apart as the baby grows, as the fetus grows. And so sometimes that split doesn't come back, and there's a gap between their abdominals after a woman gives birth. And there's a woman in Beverly Hills, she specializes not just in exercise, not just in abdominal work, but specifically on rehabbing diastasis, separation that people after they give birth has. She's got a lineup, she's got a waiting list, because she is the best at what she does, and it's very specific. And I think that's what people need to focus more on fitness. If you're a personal trainer, stop giving nutrition advice. That's not your thing. You're not trained in that field. You don't have a degree in nutrition. Just because you're a trainer doesn't mean you're also a nutritionist. It's not. Whatever you know, whatever that one thing is, find it and be the best at it and know everything there is about that one thing.
Right.
Specialize.
So just niche down, and then as a result, you'll create this sort of reputation that
Absolutely. And you know, Brett, the glute guy, he's got all this glute equipment now, and he's selling glute stuff and glute machines, and I think it's great because no one knows more about glute training than him. And so if he makes a glute machine, it's probably great, right? And if Gunner's doing a performance thing to help you jump higher and it's a machine for that, he would know. And so I'm all for people really specializing, being the master of something, and then being an entrepreneur in that one thing.
Yeah, that's very, very good advice, really. And I guess that applies to even if you're opening a physical facility as well. I suppose it's like, you know, niche down and be something different to everyone else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you mentioned about, you know, connections that you've got, and you mentioned Patch, and one of the things we've certainly seen, the people we've spoke to on the podcast, is about what they call the, you know, peer groups. In your experience, how important is it to sort of to have a group, whether it's, you know, friends or business people, that, you know, how important has that been in your success, and how have you gone about, if you have done, you know, sort of developing those groups?
That's a good question. I had a really bad experience when I moved to Los Angeles. When I was based in Canada and all the Hollywood actors would come up to Canada, a lot of the Hollywood trainers that worked with them, I wasn't a threat to them because I was in Canada. And the second I moved here, a lot of their clients left them to come to me. And I very quickly had a lot of enemies. I never did anything, I didn't know most of them, but I had a lot of things happen to me that were like, this is a scary place, and I'm just gonna stick to myself and be in my own little world. So the second I could afford to, I bought a house here, turned the garage into my gym, and then built a building next to that, and built it bigger, and then bought the house next door, and then built the court and built another one, bought the house next door. And so over years, it's like my own little cocoon, and this is my own world, and I really don't surround myself with other peers so much. It's changed maybe in the last few years, but most of the people I interact with, the industry, are the people I knew before I moved here, the people I've trusted, the people I grew up with, the people that knew me before I was successful, and the people in the academic world. Because there's so much competition, you never know what someone's ulterior motive is when you share something with them, if you can trust them, or if you ask them advice, if their advice is pure. So perhaps my experiences jaded me a little bit. That being said, almost any young person in the fitness industry who needs advice or direction or whatever it is, every week I end up I'm like, I'm happy to spend time with you, because no one helped me.
Really?
Nobody helped me. So I promise that when I was in a position to be able to help people, I'll always make time. Because why wouldn't you? Yeah.
How have you got your, because you've been very clever in terms of your journey. How did you, I suppose, work out and learn what route to go down to get where you are? Did you just sort of look and model other people, or did you just kind of figure it out through trial and error?
I had absolutely no plan.
Really?
All I promised was that I would never say no. I would look at every opportunity that presented itself. And I failed at tons. I've tried so many things. The products I've designed that failed. Most infomercials I did bombed. Actually, we have one now that's doing great and I'm excited about. I've tried opening gyms in Canada. I failed at so much, but I said, I'm not going to say no to anything. Now I say no just because, I want to be with my kids and I like golfing. But when you try everything, you never know. I went to school for exercise and nutrition, but I didn't know that later in life I would need to be able to design a video game or design a kitchen appliance or design health clubs in gyms and hotels or, so don't say no. When opportunity presents itself, really check it out, go at it, try it. So if you fail, then there'll be another thing.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on views or approaches on failure?
It's your learning lesson. Yeah, and hopefully it doesn't cost you too much. But a lot of what I've learned is from the things I failed at. Yeah. And I wouldn't change that for the world. I failed at I'm still failing at stuff. There's a lot of stuff I'm currently doing that is not going well, and that's fine. And when it eventually dies, then I'll move on. I'll say, that was interesting. I'm not going to do that again, but I've learned that that's not for me. Now let me try something else.
Yeah. What would be one of your most sort of, I guess, memorable failures?
The Revolution. I had a talk show on ABC.
Right.
I had a whole season on ABC. It was a talk show called The Revolution, and I'm so happy that I did it. And we were on TV for an hour, 5 days a week, for a year.
Wow.
And it was a terrible show.
Really?
It was terrible.
What when you say terrible, why? Just because no one watched it?
I remember not fully understanding the concept of the show even when I signed on to do it. And I'm thinking, like, it'll evolve, like it'll flush out. I'll get it once we start. And it just got weirder and worse. And I loved the people who did it with me, and I loved, they were awesome. And it was just a convoluted mess because you had the creators of the show, you had the network and the creators, and we shot the show in New York, and the producers wouldn't come to New York. They were based in LA. So they were watching us shoot in New York from the, it was a bad show. It felt bad. It looked bad. It got canceled. I remember I had a party when it got canceled because I had a contract to do this for 5 years. And I just thought after the third or fourth week of doing this, I thought, oh my God, what if the show does well? I have to stay here in New York and I have to do the show for the next half decade. I don't want to do that. I want to go back to Los Angeles and I want to be with my clients and I want to be in the sun no. So that was a failure.
Yeah.
Thankfully. And
what would you say was the big lesson or takeaway from that then?
The lesson, well, first of all, if I said no to it in the first place, I would always wonder what it's like having a TV show. So I think I would have had regrets. But I think the lesson was, if it doesn't feel right before you do it, it's probably not going to be right. Also, that's a good question. What were some other lessons from that show? I think I should have enjoyed my time in New York more because I was in such a bad mood that the show was so bad. I want to get out of New York. I don't want to be here anymore. And looking back, I wish I would have, enjoy where you are when you're there. I wish I would have embraced the fact that I'm on national television 5 hours a week. This is kind of cool. I don't know how long it'll last, but I'm just going to roll with it. And instead of that, I was just too concerned about the things that weren't right with the show. So, yeah.
Do you think that sometimes as you get older, I know what you've just said relates to me as well in some areas, is, sometimes you kind of have this picture of what you want and you don't always step back and look at, probably where you are and almost like appreciate the journey. And it's like, okay, well, maybe not everything's right, but this is a cool experience. 'Cause I guess, looking as an outside into you, you're right. You're in New York, you're on a television. For some people that must be an amazing dream.
Right. People were messaging me like, "I saw you on TV. You're on TV. How amazing is it?" It's not great. My dressing room is tiny. New York is loud. Our apartment's gross. You have a TV show.
Yeah. I guess. Do you think that's just something that comes with age, where you start to appreciate
Perspective?
Perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because also when you're young, you think, oh, this show's terrible. I'll do the next show I get. You don't really, you're not going to get another TV show. Most people don't get one TV show. So, yeah, I think with age you have some more perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your view on work? You know, are you a super hard worker? How important is it to outwork people to get somewhere in life or in business?
I used to think that you have to work hard, and then as I got older, you have to work smart.
Right. And what's the difference in your description?
So there was people, I remember growing up in school, that would study 7 hours a day, 8 hours a day they would study. And I admired them. I was like, how do you do that? I fall asleep after a couple hours. And so for me, there was more efficient things where how I would get information, and it wasn't always going to class. And for me, it was sometimes reading things and relating them to something in my life. And, you know, I'd read about the body, and instead of sitting there staring at the book for 7, 8 hours, I'd actually go into the gym and use the muscles on the planes with the motions that I'm reading about. So I'm like, oh, I get it. Oh, this is circumduction. Oh, okay. Rather than looking at a picture of it. So I think working hard, especially as you have less time in your day and you become busier and you have more commitments and you have family and you realize, oh, I can't work the hours I did when I was younger. Well, then what's this hierarchy of things that I really need to do? And maybe the other stuff's not important, or maybe I can find people that are really good at it and they can do it for me. Yeah, so working hard is just really not something I do as much anymore, and I work smart.
Right. And what would be a typical day when you're probably not traveling around the world? When would you get up? What would your sort of working hours comprise of, and when would you finish your day?
Every day is different for me.
Right.
I've got so many different commitments. I've got this amazing practice that I'm in my 27th year, and I keep saying, you know what, this has been an amazing ride, and probably there are other hipper, cooler, more relevant people in the fitness industry that my kind of clients are going to go to, and that's okay. Like, I've had 27 years of this, is great. And then I get a phone call from Gwyneth Paltrow, like, can I come work out with you? Cameron Diaz, can I come work out with you? You know, Adam Levine, Bono, I was like, you still? You want still? Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think that's really a dream, to have this practice. And then this is a small part of my life. And so then there's the facility design, and we're in the middle of 78 projects right now around the world. I just got back yesterday from Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, and we've got 3 in Egypt, and we've got projects all over with the 4 Seasons. That's a huge time commitment, and that's a lot of fun. And then I have commitments to Reebok and Propel, and I have commitments to Marshall's department store, and I have commitments to CBD Medic, and I have commitments to Fitbit, and I still teach when I can. I go back to Canada and teach at the university. Wow. Commitments to my family, commitments to my wife and I invest in real estate, so we manage some real estate. So yeah, it's.
So you're busy.
Yeah. Oh, and I still have the TV show Revenge Body. We shoot that still, and I still do Good Morning America pretty frequently. Fly back and forth to New York. So because the days are like that, you got to work smart. You got to really work smart. Maybe I see less clients than I used to, and I charge more, right. And I hire better trainers so that they can see them.
Yeah. And would you, in terms of the amount of hours compared to sort of being on and working on your commitments and sort of being off with yourself and your family, how many hours do you think you're kind of putting into that work side now?
It's so hard because now when you have a phone and you've got a laptop, there's no boundaries. You know, so the kids are asleep, and then my wife's in the shower, and then I open my laptop and I start answering emails. And I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know how to quantify. Do you know how to quantify?
No, I guess I had a conversation with someone at the weekend, and it was almost like, well, nowadays we're kind of almost always on. You know, like I think when I was younger, you'd sort of be, you know, you'd have your week and you'd be on or off. you know, on your weekends you'd be off. Nowadays, you know, with phones, it kind of merges into one, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, your life and business, I guess. So, and sometimes I ask myself the question, you know, am I doing too much? Do I need to be sort of balancing it with the family? But there is a lot of overlap.
My brother is a surgeon, and he's kind of amazing because when he's on, he's on, and when he's off, he's off. And when he leaves the hospital, he doesn't actually have to look at his phone anymore. And he's probably the most present person in my life. And he came to visit us. He lives in Toronto. He came to visit us in Los Angeles last week, and he's just present. Like, he's not looking at his phone. And I said, I got to go to this meeting. Do you want to come? He's like, yeah, great. Comes in the car, and he's present, and he's talking to me, and he's not scrolling through stuff, and he's not looking at Instagram. I don't even think he has Instagram. And it's amazing. And there's so few professions that allow you to really turn off when you don't have to be physically at your work.
Right, yeah. And you talk about that as one of your 5 things, is having this hour without technology.
Unplug.
Do you still do that yourself? Do you have that hour unplugged every day?
Yeah, I do. I definitely do. For me, the socialization of walking is amazing. And so every day, you know, I'll go 3 times a day to my favorite coffee shop, and I'll go at least once with someone I want to talk to. And that walk there back with each other, there's no phones, there's no anything. It's just being present, it's having a conversation. It's great. It's when you're done, you kind of feel energized.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that sort of plays a key part in your overall mental health and wellness then, that just unplugging now?
Yeah. I kind of got upset when they put Wi-Fi in airplanes, because that was the most restful time ever, really. And then Japan's my favorite place. My wife, that's where we go to get away, because it's pretty close to LA. And I remember North American cell phones did not work in Japan up until maybe 7, 8 years ago. And it was amazing. It was awesome. And I remember going there and walking around Tokyo, and I'd leave my phone back at the hotel, and you're so present, and you see things, and you smell things, and you go and you explore. And now cell phones work there, and you know, it is what it is, and it's part of the natural evolution of the world. But I miss that.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. You seem as though you must have some ambitious or sort of goal. You know, I guess be quite driven. What, you know, in order to achieve what you've got, what are some of the goals or ambitions that you've not yet achieved that you would like to do in your life and career?
I'm still a horrible golfer. I've been golfing for 35 years, 37 years. I'm no better now than I was then. I'm worse. So probably to be better at golf. To spend more time with my kids. I used to pick them up from school or drop them off every day, one of the two. I'd love to do both. That would be good to get to that. And to be able to spend more time in Canada. So I think ideally to spend our summers back in Canada. I want my kids to feel what it is to be in Canada and different culture, and to be able to speak French, and to eat the really bad donuts that we have there. Those are some goals of mine. As far as work, I don't know. I've never had work goals.
Really?
I've never set a work goal before, ever.
So how did these things that you've done then, is it just you've just been open to stuff, and like
everything,
you say, you've just said yes, and
everything said yes. And the yeses that I said that got me here were some of the dumbest yeses. You know, here I am in Toronto, in graduate school, with a booming business, a great loft in Toronto, a great social life, love home, and someone calls and said, can you leave everything you're doing, come to another city where you not only will not make any money, you're going to lose money for 3 to 4 months. Do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, done. If I didn't say yes, I don't think I'd be here. I know I would not be here right now.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I got to do that. Yeah.
So it's interesting to sort of almost like work out your own formula. And I suppose, would you say, similar to what you mentioned earlier then, you're, rather than sort of focusing on something that you want to do, your let's call it a goal, but your focus has been to make yourself the best person in the room.
Yeah.
That's been your focus, and then that's basically opened up all of these doors that you've just either said yes or no to. Do you think that's been your...
I think those are two big parts of it. And the other two would be know what you're not good at.
Right.
Don't try it. Like, just, you can't be good at everything. I don't know how to do accounting, so I have an accountant do it. You know, and like I said, if someone comes for injury or sports medicine or performance, or I'll send them to people that are better than me at it. So that would be one. And then the last would be, if you don't enjoy it, it's not for you. So there's a lot of things that I pushed myself to do because I said yes to it. I'll try it. And it just doesn't, I'm not having fun doing this. Done. Find the thing you do have fun with.
Yeah. And you've been around a lot of, I guess, probably most successful people in the world in their own genre. What have you, in terms of them achieving what they believe or achieving a level of success, would you say some of those things are similar to those individuals as well? You know, have you been able to understand what goes on in their minds?
Yeah, so that's probably been the most, you asked about what peers that I talk to in fitness, and I think what motivates me and what I learn from are really my clients, the people I'm around. They're the most successful in the world at what they do. And to see the work ethic that they have, and to see what inspires them and how they inspire others, and to see how creative they are. Like, I traveled the world with Kanye West for probably the better part of 12 or 13 years, really? On and off. To see him, to be on a 16-hour flight to Dubai with him, where he doesn't sleep, he's just awake the whole time, talking to you about ideas he has, about architecture, about design, about fashion, about music, about art, about this, about that, and he's sketching them and he's drawing them and he's showing you things, going on the computer, going on the internet, and you're like drifting in and out of consciousness, and there's just this non-stop creative energy coming from probably the most creative person in the world. It's inspiring. It's so inspiring, and you kind of go back to your room and you're like, okay, maybe I should think up some new exercises. Like, maybe I can do that. Maybe if he's doing that, why don't I do this? To be with Adam Levine, who goes from he's being on the most popular television show in the United States to then hopping on the car, performing a show. And for him, it's not as much about creativity as it is just pure energy and work ethic and being on. When Adam's on, he's on. It's amazing to see him just turn it on. And so I just learn from the people I'm around, and they inspire me. My clients inspire me. It's pretty amazing to see also some of them, how humble they are,
really,
with given who they are in the world. You know, and someone comes up and asks for their autograph, and they walk away and they say to me like, it's so crazy. What do they want with my autograph? What do you mean? What are they? You know, you're really famous. So yeah, they inspire me.
Yeah. And their approach to, in terms of their success, do you think fitness is a key part? In, like Kanye West, is a super, megastar. Is being fit physically, mentally, is that a key part in their regime? Because
so much of them is, before they say anything, sing anything, or act anything, people will see them. So before the actor on screen actually opens their mouth to deliver a line, you're going to judge the way they look. Before the musician sings anything on stage, you're going to look at them and judge the way. And if they're 40 pounds overweight, you're going to look at them before they even sing and be like, oh, okay. So it's huge. And it also controls their confidence. Right. And as a performer and entertainer, your confidence is everything. So even if you're not trying to lose weight for a role, you'll work out just to feel good about yourself, so that when you are on camera, that confidence comes across.
Right. And in terms of their sort of, I guess they must have quite tough schedules as well. Does that fitness, not just in terms of what they look like, but you think that's a key part in them, just being able to deal with those tough routines like traveling and performing?
Yeah. And people will always say to me, non-celebrities, when they'll say, I don't have time to work out, I don't have time to eat well. Oh, you should see what it's like being on a film set or with a touring musician, where they're nonstop on airplanes and nonstop on tour buses and doing press and doing promos and on stage and rehearsals. You should see Ariana Grande's schedule. Like, I don't even know when she pees. She's just working, and she finds time to work out and to make good eating decisions. So if she can do it, you can do it.
Yeah. And just final one on that celebrities then. If you met lots and lots of them. What would you say is sort of one of the outstanding qualities that probably the people at that level in the world have that people who aspire to them probably don't have in the same way? Do you think it's all natural, or is it stuff that they literally work at, do you think?
I think a huge part is they have the ability to push past the point where most people would stop. They can function on less sleep. Their immune system's a little stronger. Where most people might get tired, they'll push a little further. It's almost like there is a pre-existing prerequisite to be incredibly successful in the world. And I think those three things, I didn't say work ethic. They have, of course, great work ethic and intelligence and all those things, but it's almost like they are physiologically, they've got a little 1%, that extra 1%, function on less sleep, stronger immune system, and their pain threshold's just a little higher, gives them the benefit to be more successful.
Right. And so it sounds like a lot of that comes down from that sort of physical, like the energy, physical energy in all of us, I suppose.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's interesting. So I guess comes full circle back to fitness.
Exactly. Fitness is essential to that. Yeah.
So final question then. Escape Your Limits is about escaping what you've previously said is impossible. Probably, you believed yourself or other people have said is impossible. What would be an example of where you've escaped your own personal limits?
Good question. Escape my own personal limits. Well, definitely growing up in Toronto, watching movies and somehow ending up working on movies in those actors in Los Angeles. And, I'm not escaping Canada. I love Canada, but you think that where you are in the world will limit your ability to succeed in what you're doing. You never know what will take you past that geographical limit or that physical limit to get to the place where you're incredibly successful at what you do. So I think always saying yes was part of the things to get me past the geography of being in another country, in another city, to hear where it all is.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, look, there's some great lessons there. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks
Harley.
for having me. Yeah.
And best of luck with everything that you do. I'm sure you'll be successful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, then please go over to iTunes and subscribe to the Escape Your Limits podcast. Leave a review, leave a comment. It really would help us a lot to continue to keep these going.